just doing Kool-Aid Man now. Is basically just, oh yeah, everybody. If I could, I would break through the wall of every single person who was a subscriber to Rage Select, and then they would be like, "Hey Jeff, fix my wall," and I'd be like, "You're gonna need to up your patronage because I've broken a lot of walls today."
Would that be the fifth wall? The sixth wall, the Rage Select wall.
We keep going further. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast here on Rage Select. I'm Jeff.
I'm Mayhem's Muse,
and we got a great podcast this week. Full of adventure and excitement and whatever. And by the way, we are recording this on Wednesday, so if there are at least 3 things that I feel like we're talking about, then it's entirely possible that by Sunday when this comes out, could be completely wrong, could be changed, things could be different.
Doesn't matter. We did it first.
Yep,
that's all there is.
We're doing it. So, all right, we are just going to get right into it because my brand new hour-long podcast has been edging up into 90 minutes, and I don't like that.
Keep it short.
So first up, we have an announcement this week. Finally, I've been waiting for so long for a sequel to Shadows of Mordor. Yes. This is Middle-earth: Shadow of War. And what a trailer.
I drooled a lot.
What a trailer. I mean, I don't know. I guess the thing is that there's been so much Lord of the Rings in the world.
There's never enough.
That sometimes I forget that. Well, the other thing is there's a lot of bad Lord of the Rings, especially in the game.
I ignore that.
In the game space.
I just pretend that all doesn't exist. You've got Shadow of Mordor, and now you've got this, and it's gorgeous. And oh, wow.
Did you play? You haven't played Shadow of Mordor, right?
I have it, and I played a little bit of it. I haven't finished it.
I got to say, we're going to spend a little bit of time with this because I would like to say a couple of things. First off, I think that it's been, 2 years, I think, since Shadow of Mordor came out.
I think longer.
Maybe three? That
sounds right. I've had it in my docket for at least a year.
Okay. And I have to say that I have been eminently disappointed with the fact that the video game community everybody rips off everything from everybody, right?
Well, sure.
You make Minecraft, it's successful. There's a billion Minecrafts out there. There's fucking Dragon Warrior Minecraft.
That's true.
Nobody has any shame, right? QuickTime events were good. Everybody's going to have QuickTime events. Everybody's going to have, take your pick. Cover-based shooter? Sure, we're going to do it medieval. We're going to do it future. We're going to do it. It doesn't fucking matter, right? But the Nemesis system from Shadow of Middle-earth was one of the greatest things that I've seen happen in video games, and it could be applied everywhere, anywhere. I famously have said, as if Entertainment Weekly is over here like, we listen to your podcast all the time. The last Batman game would have been perfect if they would have had thugs that could have, if a thug beats you up, then they get elevated, and then eventually maybe they become like a low rent kind of superhero, right?
I love that.
There's just so many games out there that would be perfect for this because I've never felt as much animosity towards enemies in a video game than when one of those fucking orcs would beat me and they would get upgraded, and I'm like, God damn it, Groshlak, I'm fucking coming for you. I would respawn, and then I would just start beelining, oh no, you didn't.
Now it's personal.
You did.
You stole my lunch money. Now it's on.
Also, let us never forget that the developers of Shadow of Mordor had the extreme, they were self-aware enough to make, I don't know if you've seen the videos of this online, and I know everybody knows this, but it's worth pointing out because it's been a while since I've had a laugh about this. So whenever the orcs walk out, when you run into one of them and they walk out, and they've got all the little minions beside them, and they're all like, fucking Krog, Krog, Krog. Well, in Shadow of Middle-earth, in their whole randomization scheme, there is one orc named D-U-S-H. And when he comes walking out, all of his little minions are like, douche, 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 douche.
That's delightful.
I don't know. I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute here. What do you think about all of this?
I could just sit and watch somebody play this game and Shadow of Mordor in perpetuity and die a happy woman. It's just so damn beautiful.
Yeah.
And I grew up reading the Tolkien books. I read The Hobbit when I was 7.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest lore fandoms for me growing up. So the continued content in this world just makes my little nerdy heart happy. Every new little nugget of lore and mystery and things, I love it. My only thing is I want to see more content from the Silmarillion, just because that was always my favorite book in that series. That was the history book where they tell you how all the rings were forged and all of the different lands and Galadriel and all that shit.
That's the book they used to ruin the Hobbit movies, right? Where they decided to add in 16 hours of stuff in a story that should have been 90 minutes long, Peter Jackson!
This is my eye twitching. This is my eye twitching a lot. Yes,
okay.
That is the book.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is the one thing that I always find, this is the one troubling aspect about this.
Okay.
Is that, how do you feel when a property, be it a movie, video game, TV shows, comic book, whatever, decides to go in and like add a chapter to somebody else's work that wasn't there in the first place? Like, here's a story about this guy who it turns out was actually behind the scenes doing a lot of stuff, but you just never heard about him in the book, even though you got wizards that know everything and fucking... Like, there weren't a lot of hidden figures in the Middle Earth books, at least.
True.
I mean, like, okay, here's the thing. We see in this trailer that Sauron is coming back, right?
Right.
And that this is like, the big fucking...
It's leading up to the big story.
Right. We've seen that Sauron in the movie.
Right.
But we know who beats that Sauron.
Right.
It's fucking ring guy. I don't remember his name.
Aragorn.
No. The first time, who cuts the ring off of his hand, the Gondor guy or whatever.
And now you would say that Isildur.
Okay, yeah.
Brain
so
work.
We know that, like, there's only two ways that I feel like that this game could only go one of three ways. Either the main character, whose name I've completely forgotten, never fights Sauron, never fights big old mace Sauron, right? Fights him but has to lose because he's not the one who beats him. Or we're going to do some janky retcon. He beats him, but then he, like, you get to fight Sauron, you get to kick his ass, but then afterwards there's a cutscene where Sauron gets back up and hits him out of the way, and then Isildur comes over and he's like, and he chops the fingers off and whatever. So that's the problem that I find, because we know
where it goes. Yeah.
He can't defeat Sauron.
Right.
We know how Sauron is defeated. It's kind of like in Rogue One, where I'm like, oh, do you think they're going to steal the plans to the Death Star? And it's like, yeah, because 25 years ago, there was a movie about
this shit happened already. We know.
No, 40 years ago? Something like that.
Yeah, 40 some odd years ago. I'm personally hoping that it ends right as, like, that confrontation's about to begin, or that he just eats it at the end.
And then,
that would be the best.
When you beat the game, you get, like, a code for a free Amazon version of the streaming high-definition Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yes, exactly.
All right, now go watch it, nerd. You know you're going to.
I will say that since you asked about, like, how do I feel about people taking an existing thing and building on some unknown aspect of it.
Yeah.
That is something that happens a lot in the fantasy genre, which is my biggest source of information in the fantasy genre. Like, the Dragonlance Chronicles were written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, but there were 5 or 6 other authors that went and took characters that were mentioned in the book and then gave them a backstory and gave them their whole side shit. I love all those books. If I love a world enough, I will read all of the content that comes out of it, as long as it's written in a sympathetic pastiche style.
Okay.
I'm about it. If it's a good story told well, I could live in that world forever.
I feel like it's a very difficult conundrum, because, like, let's say that you wanted to make a Harry Potter game, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we already know everything that happens in Harry Potter.
Fan fiction.
Okay, so having a game where you get to be one of the Potters or whatever, him or Ron or Hermione, right? We already kind of know what happens there. So, like, okay, you're going to go to the Triwizard Tournament, there's going to be some stuff, but you know where this is going.
Yeah.
So the compelling way to make a Harry Potter game would be like, okay, well, we're going to make a side character of some kid from Hufflepuff that's doing stuff while all this is going on. But then you have to be very careful not to make, like, you can't be like, and then fucking Jerry from Hufflepuff ran into Voldemort in an alley and had to fight him, and he defeated Voldemort, except not really, because we all know that Harry Potter defeated Voldemort. And then you go, wait, why didn't J.K. Rowling talk about this Jerry guy at all? He's like...
Jerry, brother of Christ.
Yeah, he put the sword in the hat. What the fuck, Jerry? Like,
damn it, Jerry. I will pull this castle over.
But on the other hand...
You have to do it with a lot of reverence, is the thing. Reverence and knowledge of the genre. You can't step on any toes. You can't tread on storylines. You have to be very careful with it to do it well, I think.
Which I think that's good that this one is not... This game does a good thing where it doesn't take place anywhere near it takes place before any of the movies and before The Hobbit. So
after the Silmarillion, before any of that stuff. So there's a lovely amount of open space there to go pretty much where you want to.
Yeah,
within the confines.
The only criticism I ever had of the first one was that it wasn't clear enough to me when it took place, and so I was confused. And then, like in the first one, Smeagol shows up, and I'm just like, wait, what? Who? Why? What? I don't understand. Yeah. But anyway, this looks great. In the beginning of March next week, we'll have a gameplay trailer.
Really excited about it.
1 week from our recording this today. All right, so next up, Xbox One is doing an interesting thing. Sorry about this.
Speaking of interesting things.
No, that's just some robocaller that when you this is a brief aside. When you register for a doing business as license in Texas, they put your phone number in a list that anybody can get. So I get I don't answer my phone unless I know what it is, because I get literally calls all day long from people that are like, hey, you need a credit card machine for your business? I'm like, not that kind of business.
Yep.
But
I hate
all right.
that shit.
Anyway, Xbox Game Pass Unlimited is coming this spring in 2017, and this is interesting. This is going to be a subscription service where you can basically give Microsoft $10 a month and get access to over 100 Xbox One and backwards compatible Xbox 360 games for your Xbox One. Now, this, I feel like, is a really great move because I've been saying for a long time that Xbox needs a reason to get an Xbox. One of the biggest problems with Xbox, to me at least, is that there isn't enough incentive to buy an Xbox One. Like, right as we're recording this, I put up a video for a game that came out last week called Night in the Woods. This very charming indie game with a bunch of cat people. You and I watched the trailer for it. That game is on the PC and on the PlayStation 4. I'm like, why is that not on the Xbox One? Or,
nobody wants to play with them. I don't know.
There's just, I feel like there needs to be lots of reasons for an Xbox One. And as I've said before, I'm really interested in E3 this year because I want to make sure, or I want to see what Microsoft is going to put out there as an incentive to get people to pick up their platform. Well, this to me is a great incentive because if you can give them $10 a month, which is, let's face it, not much.
It's not much these days.
You can get access to a bunch of different Xbox 360 games you might not have played, and Xbox One games. Now, in their little announcement for this, they don't have a whole hell of a lot of a huge amount of detail here, but they do have a little graphic of a bunch of games all lined up. And the first one is Halo 5 Guardians, which is a big game. Then it goes to Saints Row 4 Reelected, which is then it goes to Mad Max, which then it goes to NBA 2K16, which is year before last NBA, and then like Lego Batman and Mega Man and Terraria, Payday, Gears, and then Fable. So the only problem with this particular service would be if the Xbox One has been skipping over things like Night in the Woods that they could be offering in this subscription service. Like, it doesn't do any good if your 100 games that you're giving me are mostly garbage, games that I've played before, or Xbox 360 games.
Right.
If
90% of something in there that we're going to want.
Right. I don't know. What do you I mean, I know that you don't do Xbox, but let's say, for example, like, how do you feel about a Netflix style subscription service where it's not like PlayStation Now where it's streaming, but you can actually download the entire game?
I am lazy and don't like to always leave my house.
Okay.
So having more access to more things, it also gives me, I don't like to be in a store for a long time. I want to go in with a purpose, buy the couple things I'm looking for, take those games home, be done with it.
Yeah.
So having this in front of my face is a better way for me to have more time with my hands on the product, like reading the reviews and looking at it, synopsis and everything, figuring out what I want to play.
Sure.
That makes it much easier for me as a consumer to see everything and to get my hands on it.
Plus, it would give you the opportunity to try stuff without having to make an investment, right? Because you just be like, I'm just going to download this and I'll see how it is. Oh, it's garbage. All right, delete it. Let's go to the next thing on the list.
Next.
So, yeah, I think that between this and the backwards compatibility options in the Xbox One, the only thing the Xbox One is lacking, well, outside of John just got a PlayStation VR, so
yes, John. Yes,
I really want this year for them to announce at the Microsoft press conference that the current Oculus Rift is compatible with the Xbox One because they're already partners with Oculus. So that would be nice. It'll probably have to be for Scorpio, and not the Xbox One.
don't see that happening because Microsoft has the HoloLens, and that would be a direct competition with their own product.
That's not really ever going to be a thing. Dev kits for that thing were like $3,000.
They are.
I mean, Microsoft has done this before where they put out a thing and they talk about a thing and then it never
and
actually
it just never goes anywhere.
becomes a thing. And a HoloLens is an interesting idea, and I'm really not. I've shat on it before, and I shan't shat on it today. But what I will say is that I don't think that the HoloLens, which probably is going to have to cost more because it's a more sophisticated device than any of the current VR offerings, is. And it's also limited, like, because they had this whole thing where they could have either had it plugged in and you get your full field of vision, or wireless and you get basically a rectangle of vision in front of your eyes. I don't think it's going to be the sort of thing that you would put out there as a consumer electronics product.
I agree completely with that. And the function that they seem to be offering for it is much more industrial, like for hospitals and architects and things like that. So, but I think that they're still concentrating on trying to push that technology, so I don't see them overlapping that just yet. I say maybe give it another year or two. I could be wrong.
You know what? Who knows? I mean, that's the great thing about E3 is that they drag stuff out on stage that you're like, okay,
I'm gonna go with it.
All right, moving on. There's an unfortunate thread that I was reading on NeoGAF that was a person who has gotten a hold of the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild, the new Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
Now, by the time this comes out, that game will be out, and who knows? This is one of those stories that could be completely wrong, because it could be that this person doesn't have a patch that's going to go live on day one that fixes stuff. But they, when playing it, noticed this is in a real rough translation, and this is from a NeoGAF thread, so treat everything with a grain of salt. Strong, and this is just in the tutorial area, strong aliasing, not as good sharpness, some pretty big frame rate drops, visual issues with cutscenes or when getting out of inventory, too many actions, and apparently the frame rate just goes down through the floor. Like if you're trying to turn and run and jump and do a bunch of things at the same time, a lot of times that can really affect it. And then a 5-second loading time whenever you get back to the home menu when you're trying to open up menus, which that's really irritating. Now, this is all the patches that were currently out installed. So who knows if there's going to be more, but if the Wii U version is significantly, if it has frame rate issues and it's significantly worse, that's such a kick in the nuts.
It really is. Because
this has been a game that's been in development with the Wii U, and it's not only just because that. I understand, the Twilight Princess came out on the GameCube and the Wii at the same time, right? This is not the first time that this has happened with Nintendo having a game like Zelda that crosses stuff. But what's different about this is that the Switch is not available. So let's say that you're a big Zelda fan and you have a Wii U and you bought your Wii U because there was going to be a fucking Zelda game and it's coming out, and then you learn that there's the version for that one is the crappy version and the good version is on the console that Nintendo hasn't made enough of, didn't do a second pre-order run for, and is probably going to take 3 months before. Because you know what, Jennifer? You know what? Where the fuck are my NES classics? Because that shit was 4 months ago. Those things should be back in stock. They should be there.
I know.
So this is, to me, a real kind of I know. I feel
like Nintendo is scrambling right now. They're needing to figure their shit out one way or the other. Either hold everything back until everything's ready, or release one at a time, but make sure it's damn good. But this letting it go before it's ready and then disappointing fans I've always said this. I would rather wait for a game to be perfect than have it early and be disappointed.
Well, the thing about this is that, to me, what it speaks of is that they stopped developing.
They stopped prioritizing it.
Well, they started developing Breath of the Wild. This thing has been in development for a while now, and that they at a certain point shifted their focus to, this is going to be a Switch game,
the shiny new toy,
right? Which is a real bummer, because I tell you what, it's been how long? Goddamn, was it 4 years of Rage Select, and I had my Wii U before that because we got one when I worked for Spill. 4 or 5 years worth of Wii U. That console has gotten shit. Has gotten real crapped on by Nintendo, because this is supposed to be one of the big things, and I don't know if we've ever faced a point where the new Zelda game runs like ass on one of the consoles it's available for because Nintendo couldn't be bothered and shifted their development focus. Like most of the time, Nintendo games on the Wii U are just like smooth and silky and great, and you can kind of be assured that no matter what else happens, that the Nintendo created games that come out on any of their devices are going to be great. And so to hear that there's any kind of like Zelda should be silky smooth and running, it's a flagship title. It would be like, you know, if Mass Effect Andromeda ran at 20 frames per second on the PS4, we would be like, well, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, this isn't acceptable.
Agreed.
So I don't know. Like, I may, and like I said, maybe there's going to be a patch and it'll be fine, or maybe in a month there'll be a patch and it'll be fine. But it does kind of mark for me, it's like a line of demarcation between like, before this, I could say that every Zelda game that came out was fine, ran flawlessly on whatever system you were going to do it on. Now you have to be like, well, no, you should really be playing this on the Switch, and because you can't get access to it, that could mean, okay, Zelda fan, not only do you need to not play this new Zelda game on this console where it runs in an inferior state, but you're also going to need to wait to play your Zelda game until Nintendo gets around, because traditionally when they short run a console like this, it's not going to be the second run where everybody gets a chance to walk into Walmart and buy one, because people are going to snap up the second run. Like, even if the first run's gone, but if like I can't get one and I'm still 50-50, then the second run is going to be snapped up by people like me who forgot or didn't know or didn't want to pre-order. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take like 2 or 3 more runs to get to a point where you can just walk into a store and there's one of those on the shelf, which to me is a real problem, because Nintendo right now is at the bottom of the 3, and I feel like they've got a perfect avenue to get a lot of leverage if the Switch works the way that they said it does, but they just have to fucking sell it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I complain about this all the time. Do you have any further thoughts before we jump forward?
No. We've pretty much covered all of it. Come on, Nintendo. We have high hopes.
Yeah, please. All right, so last week we had a story about Overwatch, and we had a story about this character, Effie O'Dowdley or something like that, who was this young girl who they were talking about, who was basically kind of teased as maybe the next person to be in Overwatch, and then we also saw a picture of a giant spider. So it was kind of like...
Yeah, giant robot spiders for the win.
Have you seen Wild Wild West? I'm just saying.
I'm still stuck on D&D, all right? Giant spiders are awesome.
Fair enough. So the question was, is this little girl going to be controlling that spider? Is that going to be the next hero?
Nice. Maybe she controls mechs.
But... there have been a couple of more, and last week I was lamenting the fact that it was a Doomfist, because first off,
that's a great name. There's a fucking great name.
Somebody in the comments was like, this sounds like a stupid name. I'm like, hell yeah, it does. I'm
into it.
I go see Doomfist the movie and be like, this summer, fucking Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is Doomfist.
Nobody else could play that.
Well, Terry Crews could, because I don't know, maybe he's playing. Anyway, so there have been further developments, and like I said, by the time this comes out, we may actually fully have a reveal for a person. But 2 new things came down. One was on the which one is this? On the Mumbai map. There were a couple of things that were added. One is that this map in Overwatch, you are escorting this payload, and the payload is a little tank that has Doomfist Gauntlet in it. And now that tank is broken open, and there is no Doomfist Gauntlet in it. Second, there is there's a railway station where there are a bunch of robots that are all beaten up, including one that's been maybe punched with a Doomfist, because he's like in the wall is all broken, and it's just like, okay. And by the way, let me just say, I fucking love the way this is going, because it's just been like teasing and changing maps and stuff, and everybody's just like...
Couldn't tell you loved it by the sheer glee in your voice.
Yep. And then there was another picture on Twitter that was Effie Oladeles, and it's just this illustration, and it says, things to get... UR-15 chassis, Branford arm, fusion driver, miniature Tobelstein reactor, paint, and then Lucio's, which is it's a cereal in this universe, and it's about her posting with the thing saying time to get to work. So I think that the question might be that this character is building a new armor for Doomfist. So who knows? We could be getting Doomfist
Stay
after
tuned.
all. I just want a character with Terry Crews in a video game, and I don't like. It's just because of those fucking Old Spice commercials. Like that's where I know Terry Crews from. Like I know that he's done other things, but I really just know him as like screaming at me about Old Spice and just going like, "All right, cool." Yeah, make that Old Spice guy into an Overwatch character. That's what I'm looking for in my life.
I'm into it.
Have you played Overwatch yet?
Nope.
Ah,
It's not my genre.
I know.
I'm not good at it.
It's still fun. It's not my genre either, but it like literally got me back into playing online shooters.
All right, you know what? If you invite me over for like a Sunday stream or something,
Yeah.
I will play Overwatch with you.
Okay, well, when if it's Doomfist that comes out, you can be assured that we'll probably be playing Overwatch for that Sunday streaming after that, because
All right.
I am literally looking for any excuse to play Overwatch, in spite of the people who don't like to watch me play Overwatch. Hey, I should have put this next story way earlier because it actually ties directly into the Shadow of Mordor War
It does
story.
Try into that.
Yeah, but this week, Massive Entertainment, Fox, Lightstorm, and Ubisoft announced that they're making an Avatar game.
To coincide with the fact that they're making the second Avatar movie right now.
Okay, so my question, my first question, because this video is nothing. It's just a bunch of game devs talking about how they love Avatar and blah, 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 blah.
Fangirling all over it.
And pictures of scenes from the movie of avatars. And it reminded me when I was watching the scenes from the movie, oh, yeah, I have no feeling at all for Avatar.
Really?
It didn't invoke, like, they're all talking about, like, oh man, when we were making, like, when I saw this movie, I couldn't believe how lifelike this planet was and how I wanted to go to it. And I was like, I don't fucking whatever. It was just a bunch of blue cats running around punching space marines. And, like, I don't know, this one guy, and then Sigourney Weaver was a cat, and then they put their hair in a dragon, and then they put their hair in the earth, and they put their hair on each other, and then they just put their hair in places. And
oh, goodness. Oh, Jeff.
I don't know. I didn't catch the bug when Avatar was out. I didn't catch the fever at all.
I saw it in the theater, I want to say 3 or 4 times. I saw it in the IMAX.
Okay.
It was the first movie done completely and totally in 3D, right?
I think so. Or there was some form of 3D in it that was better.
And having worked on the newest James Cameron set, the Battle Angel Alita project, which is also being shot completely for 3D. I don't know. I dig the technology aspect and the VR and the 3D stuff. So I'm a fan of the genre.
I guess to me it comes off as slightly tone deaf, because if there was a trailer for a new Avatar movie right now, that might make more sense. But as it is, it's like just showing me the first movie and then talking about how we're going to be making this game, and you're going to be able. There was an Avatar game, and it was not very good. No. But I don't know. It's a question to me of, it gets into this problem, right? Okay, so here's the problem. You're going to make a game, your game's going to be connected to a movie, right?
Sure.
You have 2 options. One option is that no matter hell or high water, no matter if it's done or not, it doesn't matter if it needs 6 more months worth of work, you put your game out when the movie comes out to coincide with the 2 of them. And traditionally, that's what we get crappy games that have been rushed to completion because they have to be out by a certain time. They also have to kick back a huge amount of money to the person who owns the IP to be able to use the IP, and they have restrictions about what they can do based on that IP.
Right. And I'm not seeing James Cameron in any of this video, so I'm wondering if it's...
Oh, he's in here.
Oh,
he's in here briefly. The other option is that you take as much time as you need to make your,
which I prefer,
licensed game, but then you run the risk of, like, there was a Wanted game that came out like a year after the movie Wanted came out, and it was like,
twitching now.
Okay, or putting out an Avatar game. I mean, and this is so early days that who can say, but I don't know. To me, I never really got the impression that a lot of people were like, oh my God, Avatar, I fucking love it, I watch it all the time.
I don't know, I love that. I found it to be gorgeous. I liked the storyline.
Yeah.
I love that genre in general. I'm a fan.
Okay.
I'm a fan.
Fair enough. And maybe that's the thing that people can that people can chime in the comments. Let me know. I mean, everybody knows that I've got no human heart, and I'm a giant stick in the mud who doesn't like anything. So,
shock.
It's possible that maybe the other thing that's very possible that I always forget is that if you're younger than me and you saw Avatar when you were like a teenager, and it was one of those, like when I was watching, I have like a huge there are movies out there that I know are not as good as the way I feel about them because I saw them when I was young and it was the first time. I think The Last Starfighter is the tits, but like I could understand anybody who watches that now who's just like, oh well, this is just some bullshit and the makeup isn't even very good. Like, why would I even care about this movie? So if you saw Avatar at a point where, and I'm not saying for you, but I also forget that people like stuff in different ways. Like I have such a mat on for Star Wars because I saw those movies when I was a child and they were it was like the first time I'd ever seen anything like that before. So I have a hard time these days hammering too much on people that are younger than me that maybe started with the prequels when they were kids and they weren't sitting there like, oh, this is so boring. We're talking about trade federations and the path of Hayden Christensen is a much better actor than there's like, yeah, lightsabers, fucking woo, I love Jar Jar Binks, I'm 9. And I'm like, I can't take that away because when I was 9,
yes, you can.
I
it's
probably
just shitty. Take it away.
You know what? I was too old for the Ewoks. I don't like Ewoks.
I liked the Ewoks.
I think that I think seeing a bunch of teddy bears fucking take down the Imperial Army.
That's right.
Is terrible.
Oh,
is terrible. But
you're ruining my childhood now.
But so. If you saw Avatar when you were younger and it was like one of the first things that I mean, your parents are just like, oh, let's go take it.
I want to say I was a late teenager when that came out.
It could be great. It could be great. Like I always say, it really depends on when you saw a thing. So, like if I saw Scott Pilgrim versus the World when I was 16, it would be my favorite movie of all time. It would be my favorite movie that I'd ever seen in my entire life. All right.
What else we got?
Let's wrap it up here because I feel like we're just about at 30 minutes. We're a little bit over. Twitch is going to start selling games directly to the people watching Twitch. This actually is, I've been seeing Twitch pop up on my newsfeed a bunch recently. They had a thing where they were talking about, what was it like? People could give, that like bigger developers were going to start giving people who were watching Twitch streams virtual currency and stuff. I don't like. There's a lot of weird stuff going on over on Twitch. You can change your username on Twitch now, apparently, if you want to.
I wouldn't want to, but all right.
Well, yeah, obviously. But for this one, apparently, you're going to be able to buy games and in-game content directly through like a streamer's page. And the developers are going to get 70% of the revenue. And partnered streamers, which I'm not because it requires
a lot more streaming than what you guys do.
It requires, a lot of like you've got to stream X amount of hours, you got to maintain X number of viewers.
There's a flow to it. There's content based.
Yeah, I don't want to chase that particular dragon, right?
It's a lifestyle. It's like even more living off ramen and not getting any sleep than what you already do.
Right. But if you're a partnered streamer, you're going to get 5%, which doesn't. I mean, like it seems like you're going to need to be a big streamer because what? You get $60 a $60 game. What's 5% of 60? $3?
Something like that.
Yeah. So
which is on par for the donation that you get every time somebody subscribes to your channel.
Okay.
It's what is it now? $3.99.
I don't know.
And Twitch gets some of that. They get like $1 of that, and you get the rest of it. So every time somebody subscribes to your channel, if you're a partner, you get $2, something like that.
I don't know.
I'm not partnered, so the only monies I get off Twitch are donation based.
Anyway, it's interesting because this is from an article off of Game Informer. It says games bought on Twitch can be played through the Twitch launcher or through developer/publishers' existing services such as Ubisoft's Uplay, which also seems to be a weird thing. Every time I see another company try to put another game launcher out there, I'm like, no, this is a Steam household. You will install Steam. You will use Steam. We use Steam over here.
Steam or no dinner.
Well, why would I want to?
My question on this is: is it just going to be certain game developers, like the bigger developers, that have to buy into Twitch in order for that to happen, or is it just going to be a blanket? Any game you play, there's a way to link to that developer's site. Because if they do it that way, where it's open to anybody, this could be amazing for the indie dev community.
Sure.
There are streamers like my friend RT Lozelda. She almost specifically only streams indie dev games. She is intimate with the indie dev community. So that could be amazing for them, getting so much more visibility on those games, and that direct purchase could be awesome.
Yeah.
But if it's only the big fish and you have to like buy into it to get it, I don't see how that's going to benefit anybody other than the companies that are already big.
I mean, I get the impression from just my interaction with Twitch as an organization that it's going to you're going to have to. It's not going to be a thing where anybody can put your game on there and then things can happen. That it's going to have to be a thing where you, the developer/publisher, buy into it or at least sign up with them specifically. So you're probably going to see smaller publishers that are like, "Is this worth our time? Should we do it? Maybe." I don't know. It depends.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. It's interesting to see.
I would like to see it. Like a direct link, like when you say you're going to play a game on Twitch, you have to fill in that game. It links to the game's interface, and then that's it. I would love to see that automatically link to like the developer's site or something. That would be great.
Yeah, I agree. And apparently, also people who buy games from Twitch will get a free Twitch crate containing a randomized assortment of Twitch emotes, chat badges, and bits for cheering.
Bits. Put the bits in the cup.
I don't.
It's another Patreon subscription thing. Yeah.
I don't do enough Twitch streaming to understand any of this. But hey, you know what?
I know you don't.
Great.
But you're beautiful, Jeff, and we love you anyway.
Great.
One of these days, I will force you to sit down long enough to teach you.
That's great. It sounds great. I'm also just a big fan of anybody taking. I like Twitch because Twitch still remains generally free, less shitty than YouTube when it comes to like taking your monetization and blah 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 and turning off your stream. I mean, like you might not be able to do a replay, but at least people can watch stuff while it's going on, which is great incentive. Because I mean, we did Berserk Band of the Hawk last week for the dojo, and because that game, this is the thing that conflate. That game, the cutscenes in that game are basically snippets of the anime, the current Berserk anime that's going on. And when I put that on YouTube, YouTube flagged those anime sections.
For copyright infringement?
German distributor of that anime is like, whoa, buddy, you can't put our anime online. Those videos are blocked in Germany. Nobody in Germany can watch any of our Berserk things. And it's just like, I didn't put the cutscenes in the fucking game, Germany. Give me a fucking break over here. Germany, like, or whoever.
I feel you.
Like, I didn't do this, and the only way it was like when I put Ratchet and Clank up, the last Ratchet and Clank game, which I actually adored. They were using their cutscenes were scenes from the movie that they put out, and so like,
which makes our life hard,
right? Like Warner Brothers or whoever, like, just completely cacked my video, and so I had to go in and like try to take that one scene out and upload it, and then it just went to the next scene and wasn't. So you're saying that what I, as a YouTube Let's Player, are to do is to sit down and edit out every scene, every cut scene from my game because your robot garbage can't tell the difference between the video game. Your robot garbage can't look like 3 minutes this way and 2 minutes this way and be like, oh, look, there's a video game here. This is a cut scene. It's not like I'm trying to sneak your movie onto YouTube.
It's so frustrating.
I know.
It's just ridiculous.
Grr!
YouTube, get it together, please.
And last but not least, I know we're all out of order today, but because there was an announcement for the Switch of a sequel to a game that is near and dear to my heart, and that is SteamWorld Dig. SteamWorld Dig 2 is coming out on the Nintendo Switch, and my God,
so
does it look
pretty.
charming.
It's so freaking adorable.
And delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah, if you haven't played the first one, I'm pretty sure at this point it's available on Steam, and I think it's even on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. SteamWorld Dig is real fun, and if you played SteamWorld Heist and didn't dig it, SteamWorld Dig is it's a real fun little game where you're just playing as this little steam-powered Western robot. Just digging, got a pickaxe.
Diggy hole, baby. Diggy hole.
This one looks a little bit more like, it's got a little bit more of like a Pitfall vibe to it. Like there's all this kind of Mayan I
love this art style. It's so pretty.
And it's very simple, but I like what it's doing. It looks fun. It looks a little bit more involved. It looks like they're taking the first one and kind of, going places with it. But yeah, it looks really, really amazing, and it gives me an excuse to talk about how much I like the SteamWorld games.
Steampunk for the wind.
Yeah. I don't know.
For the wind? Really?
Yeah, for the wind.
Oh, Jennifer.
No, and the thing is that I'm not normally a big fan of steampunk, but I like this because it's got a Western feel to it, and then all the characters are robots, are steam-powered robots. So it kind of has its own, thing as opposed to top hats with the goggles.
Don't even get me started on top hats and fucking goggles.
Top hats and goggles.
Inappropriate for the genre. You would never be able to get them over the brim of the top hat and onto your face.
That's
you
true.
wouldn't wear them on your freaking top hat.
That's true.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, that's totally true.
All right.
All right, with that, we are but 10 minutes over time, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do questions.
Yeah.
Stick around, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
I missed you.
It was time, and now it's time. It's time. It's time for the
For a nap?
questions. No.
Oh.
No, there are no naps. Sleep when you're dead.
Time for coffee?
I'm Greg Rules.
Greg Rules.
Welcome back, everybody.
Wiggly dance.
Yeah, mail@rageselect.com is the email address for you to send in your questions to. And our first question this week comes from Brandon.
Hi, Brandon.
Brandon, who says, hello, Jeff and Jennifer.
Hello.
Brandon here with a question that you might be able to answer. So after watching some Berserk and the Band of the Hawk, I have to wonder, how is this type of gameplay fun? The Dynasty Warriors style of play just seemed just so bland, like the enemies are just standing there waiting to die. I'm trying not to sound shitty, but I'm genuinely curious what is enjoyable about that style of gameplay. Little patron and fan Brandon. P.S. My friend tried to get me into Game Grumps and they weren't bad, but I got sick of them fairly quick, unlike Rage Select. Ooh. Shots fired at a channel that is like super successful and not us.
We love you. Thank you for being so loyal.
Okay, so the first question, Jennifer, have you ever played a Dynasty Warriors game?
I have not.
Okay. Do you know what Dynasty Warriors
I know
is?
the name.
Okay.
I'd have to see it to be like, that thing. I've
Okay.
seen that thing.
So for anybody who hasn't played a Dynasty Warriors game or who hasn't ever really experienced one, Dynasty Warriors has been around for a long time. This is a company called Omega Force that makes them. And the type of games that they are you are a character and there are a zillion enemies. But those enemies tend to walk up and then be very static, and then you cut down hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them at a time.
Boo.
So this franchise started with Dynasty Warriors, which is a retelling of the whole, what do they call it, like the Five Kingdoms or whatever, like the, in Chinese history, when it was like the world, the empire was being like, there was a, I'm doing this so badly. There's a whole thing. I don't remember all the names of the people, but it's like there was a ruler that went through and conquered all of the individual kingdoms to basically bring China under one big rule, right? And it's kind of like a fantastical retelling of that particular story.
Oh, cool.
With these characters that go out and have wars and chop down 1 million people at a time. And Lu Bu is there, and he's got a dumb hat, and his name is Lu Bu, but he's awesome. So they have that. Then they have Samurai Warriors, which is, I believe, Japanese history. I've never really looked into it. But then they started branching off, and they do a bunch of different genre stuff. So there's a Dynasty Warriors Gundam that's all about different Gundams. There's a Dynasty Warriors that's based on Fist of the North Star, where it's basically like the guy from Fist of the North Star beating up a bunch of people. The latest one is Berserk, right? There's one for Zelda called Hyrule Warriors, where it's all the different characters from Zelda fighting these big things. And then they actually announced that there's going to be one for Fire Emblem as well. Now, okay, so let me explain, because I don't hate Dynasty Warriors. I do find them to be very samey, like they all kind of come off as the same game because you're just doing this kind of attacking. But there's two aspects to Dynasty Warriors that I feel like people don't entirely get. And the first one is that if you wanted the game to be in any way, shape, or form challenging, which it does get as you get further on, it's just got a very gentle difficulty curve. So you'll play 16 to 30 missions that are just cakewalks, and then suddenly you'll be in this mission and you'll be like, oh my god, this is kind of hard. Like, why is this hard? So the way that you can get around that is you can actually play the game on hard, which I've done before, and that does give people that have more of a who are more fixated on challenge a way for the game to be more challenging. But I feel like the thing that most people don't entirely understand about Dynasty Warriors is that Dynasty Warriors isn't about the combat. It's a fan service game.
I see.
So when you're playing Dynasty Warriors Gundam, it's not especially difficult. What you do is you can be, oh shit, this is when Amuro Ray was fighting Char for the 4th time in the 2nd movie. And now I get to play that part. I'm going to blow up a bunch of robots. I'm going to fly through the air. We're going to have a little nice fight. And then we're going to go into a cutscene and blah, blah, it's going to be done. Or like you're playing Hyrule Warriors, you're like, oh, this is the part in Ocarina of Time when blah 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 was doing yakety schmack at the whoozamawat, and now I get to play that part. So that's why I keep saying to people, there was a Attack on Titan game, which was the least Dynasty Warriors game that was also made by those same people, but it was like you were just kind of doing the same thing on these Titans over and over again. They're all very repetitive games, which I feel like the gameplay of those games is less important than the story. So if you're not into the story at all and the spectacle of what's going on in the story, then yeah, the gameplay is weaker than that.
I can see that.
And so that's why I keep saying that whether you're going to like a Dynasty Warriors game or not is based on how much you like the source material that it's based on. So, for example, Hyrule Warriors is probably the best of those games because they come up with this multi-dimensional plot where basically you're playing a Link in a new universe who then taps into the multiverse where you're going to different Zelda games over different time periods to reenact different iconic things that happened to each one of those Zelda games. And it's always a big fight, but it's always like, oh, this is when the rock guys were rebelling against the kingdom or whatever. Like, you know, this is and they also do a pretty good job a lot of times of letting you trade between different characters. So like in Hyrule Warriors, you got to play as Link, but you also got to play as Zelda, but you also got to play as Sheik, and you also got to play as who's the lady that was like Zelda's like protector in one of them?
Sheik.
I thought Sheik was Zelda.
Well, yeah, that's right. No, I'm thinking of
it may be
Brain.
Okay, but you know, it was like and they keep adding new characters. So, like, by the end of Hyrule Warriors, you get to play as Ganon. You get to play on the 3DS version. They had the boat from the one where you drive around on the boat on the GameCube.
Wind Waker,
yeah. On the 3DS, I don't know if they ever did it on the one. They had a Linkle, the kind of lady version of Link that they have ginned up that was played slightly differently. So all of this stuff is basically saying that Hyrule Warriors is not a game if you're like, oh man, I can't wait to play a game with all these super in-depth mechanics that is really difficult. It's more a game about like, oh, I like Berserk. Right. Mm-hmm. I want to play through this game that goes from the beginning of Berserk all the way up to where the current manga is, or I don't know how far it goes. I do know that it gets to the Berserk armor, which is like way later in the series, but I just want to see. It's almost like an anthology where you get to see all the main events of a particular fiction set get played out one after another without having, and in a more, it's almost like a slightly more interactive anime.
Yeah.
And that is the appeal. So yeah, if you want combat that's interesting, then you play, something else. All right. This next one comes in from Alex. Alex says, hello. I'm not saying that. Jeff and Jennifer.
Oh.
Haven't sent in a question in a long time, but with the release of Resident Evil 7, it brought back some memories of when I was a wee young lad watching my brother play the original on the first PlayStation.
Nice.
The mechanic of having to find an ink ribbon to save gave me anxiety and in turn made me have nightmares where I was stuck in the mansion and couldn't wake up until I found an ink ribbon. Woof. Now, has there been a game that is giving you so much anxiety that it has been brought into your dreams or real life in any way? Rage on, Don, please be praised, Alex.
You go first.
Okay, I can say that there are a couple of things. They're not as horrifying as Alex's example here, but I can say that after playing Skyrim for a long time, there was one day where I was walking my dog and I saw a bunch of flowers, and I kind of was like, I had a momentary impulse to pick them because there were flowers, and you need all the flowers.
That's beautiful.
On the other hand, after playing Burnout 3 Takedown, which is about like driving as fast as you can, and then there's actually a whole minigame about crashing into stuff, I did find myself driving on the highway looking at some cars with a momentary urge to swerve into them to do some kind of crazy explosion thing.
Oh, no.
And of course, like, I've got all the safety lockdowns in my brain were like, no. But I was just like, did I just want to fucking run into that car because I thought I could do a sick flip and get an aftertouch bonus on those cars over there? And I'm
did.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
I very much did. I don't know. Anything?
I have a couple.
Okay.
They're actually both PlayStation games. Watching Dino Crisis, the original Dino Crisis.
Okay.
That game used to give me some nightmares. It's one of those like really good suspense games, kind of like a Resident Evil.
It's like survival horror, but with dinosaurs.
Yes, but with dinosaurs, yeah.
Right.
And like very limited ammo. You're almost always about to die.
Okay.
Giant dinosaurs come out of nowhere, and you almost die a lot. It's lots of jump scares and stuff. That game came into my nightmares quite a few times. Maybe I have a thing about dinosaurs because the other one is the original Tomb Raider. And in the original Tomb Raider, you're in this cave, and you come out you go through like a waterfall, and then there's this area full of dinosaurs, and there's a giant T-Rex.
Yep.
And that T-Rex stampeding towards me gave me so much heart and throat that I could not. I had to shore my courage up to even play that game originally just because that scene gave me so many heart palpitations. I loved the Tomb Raider games so much, but God, that's just, they got me.
You know, it's funny because there's been plenty of games where I had nerves while playing them. There's just very few that translated over into that got out of the game and got into my head enough that they came out in actual real life. Like, just about all the Souls games have this mechanic where it's like, you know, you're going between these two bonfires, right? And you get to a point where you're out for a while, and you have to start asking yourself, like, okay, there's some big monster standing over there. Should I go back and try to do this section again to use fewer healing things so that I can get through these, or should I try to push through, or should I try to run past? But I don't know what all is up there. I've never been to this area before. That could be real nerve-wracking. I do have one other example, though, for Alex. This is an example that I feel like I've talked about a few times before. Okay, as a wee lad, I got my start with video games by watching my father play text adventures on the Macintosh. Okay, so when I was young, that was what I would do, is I would watch him play video games, and at the time, he liked to play text adventures. And there was a text adventure called Transylvania.
Yeah.
Do you know this?
I do.
Okay. And it was like it had some graphics and it had some sound, but it was very primitive. Well, there was a thing in Transylvania where if you took too long to do a thing, or if you went to too many places, or you did stuff, this werewolf would come out and kill you, and it would be game over. And the werewolf was just this shadow, like with pointy ears and claws and a little eyes. That's all it is. And you have to remember, I'm showing Jennifer screenshots this right now. I was playing it on like a Mac, so it was
all green.
Well, it was actually black and white when I was playing it. I was like 4 or 5 when this was happening. This thing scared the shit out of me. This just silhouette of a werewolf. Like, I couldn't sleep for a few days because I was terrified at the thought of this thing. And I think that a lot of it was just that it was the unknown. But when I look back on it, it's kind of hilarious because it's like, it's just a blob. You know, it's just kind of like weird, dancy looking blob.
Somebody should cosplay as that. Just covered head to toe in black.
Yeah. But yeah, that was one that really got to me. Also, I think I've told this before. There's also another game called Uninvited.
I've heard of that.
Where it's like your character crashes their car in front of this crazy house, and you have to go in, and there's a bunch of spirits in there. And this one was less so than the other one, but there's this lady that's standing in a hallway and her back is turned to you, and if you try to mess with her, she turns around, she's got a skull face. Ooh. And you get killed. And that was another one that kind of scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. So.
Okay, those two both remind me of probably the first game to scare the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Eye of the Beholder.
Oh, yeah?
Did you ever play that?
Yeah, but it was... I think that we've got an age difference because when I played it, I was older. A little bit older. But yeah.
The fact that it was like first person,
yeah, and
you had to use the forward and backwards like D-pad stuff to move, and you never knew if something was behind you or in front of you.
Yeah. That
shit used to scare the crap out of me. I could not with darkened hallways for the longest time. Yeah. Because I was always afraid some shit was going to leap out at me and just like kill me.
It's going to pop up behind you. See, I never really played these games all that much.
And that's another one where like if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you will be dying all of the time.
Yeah. All right.
Those little food packs.
All right, we got a couple more questions here. This next one's coming in from Ruskles06, who
Hi, Ruskles.
says, "Hello, Jeff, master of jorts," and this says your trusty steed, and then it has a blank for your name, but I'm not doing that. Let's say Jeff, master of jorts, and Jennifer, master of Superman pajamas, which is what she's wearing here today.
Hey,
What?
this is a onesie,
Okay.
sir. There's a cape.
Okay, it's still for pajamas.
It's not for pajamas. This is for the onesie party at Sherwood Forest Fair this weekend. Thank you very much.
All right, fair. Hey, man, all I know is you're representing the Soup's colors, and I'm happy with that.
You should be happy. This is the only time in existence this has ever happened.
You walked in, I was kind of like, whoa, have you come over to the good side? Are you?
Nope, but any port in a storm.
This question, Ruskell says, my question relates to Steam Greenlight. While Steam Greenlight had a lot of issues, it still allowed for some interesting titles to make their way onto Steam and give people countless hours of enjoyment. Can you think of any games that you really enjoyed coming out of Greenlight? Would you have preferred them to come out as full-fledged games? He says, please find included a list of good Greenlight games that you played on the show or talked about: Stardew Valley, Darkest Dungeon, Broforce, Fract OSC, and Miasmata. Hope you're having a good day, Ruskles06.
Man, Stardew Valley is one of those like crack addicting games.
Mm-hmm. Well, so here's the thing. We had a story about how I don't know if you know this, but so Steam Greenlight, I don't know how much you know how Steam Greenlight works, but basically, like, Valve has this problem with games coming onto Steam and how to decide what games go onto Steam and what games don't. And so Steam Greenlight was a way to basically create this community of people where you submit your game to Steam Greenlight, and then you have to get enough people to upvote your game to get it to then transfer to the main page of Steam. Now, unfortunately, this started up places where there was abuse, where people would trade you a free copy of their game and then in return, you would give them an upvote on Steam Greenlight. So they basically give their game away to enough people on Greenlight to get the upvotes to be able to dump some garbage onto the main store, or they would do contests where they would give people stuff, and then they would look for. There was just a lot of ways to game the system, to game the Greenlight system. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can buy Twitter followers if I want. I can buy garbage Twitter or Facebook followers if I want. There were ways to game the Greenlight system. So Steam announced that they're doing away with Greenlight, and they're basically doing this new thing where it's just called Steam Direct, I believe, where you just have to apply your game and then give Steam a certain amount of money, and then they certify it, and then it just goes onto the front page. They're doing away with Greenlight. I think that this is not a super great idea because it means that there is now like no gatekeeper outside of money. That money is the only gatekeeper.
Horrible. That is horrible.
But I will say this. It's been a few weeks since we had that story, and I will say that in Steam's defense, Steam has now this thing that's just like popular new releases on the front page. And this is all I look at now. I don't look at all new releases because all new, like, you look at this, and so far this week, there have been, I don't know, I think Stories Untold is the first one, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games here. Whereas if you look at, I mean, we've done this experiment, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but you remember when you and I were looking at like all new releases.
Yeah.
And there's just
bazillions of crap.
So much,
games.
right? So this kind of sucks because it means that I am now not curating. Like, I don't want to look at the shit show that is Steam, but I will look at these things. So I actually bought a few of the games that were here on the popular new releases because I know that they're probably of a decent enough quality. In any case,
sure.
To answer to go back to Ruskell's question, here's the thing. I don't think that Greenlight was an unmitigated failure. I just think that Steam is not quick to make changes to fix things. So, like, Greenlight has been broken, and I don't even think. Actually, let me walk this back just a little bit. Valve also has no interest in fixing this problem because the more games that are on their store, the more games people are able to buy, and the more games that people buy, the more money goes into their pocket.
Right.
So if you're Valve, what's the upside of having fewer games? Like, if somebody puts a shit-ass game that has a thumbnail with anime boobs on it that they powered through Greenlight and enough suckers buy it for $5, Steam gets a piece of every $5 that gets put in there. So why would they want to keep this garbage anime game off of Steam when they could be getting money for that.
Sure.
And they make a good point of saying Steam has a refund option. And I've never been denied a refund on Steam. I mean, I bought games, played them, decided they weren't worth it, and then refunded them to Steam. And as long as you're under like a week and under 4 hours worth of gameplay time or whatever, Steam will give you your money back, and they're not real choosy about that. So they do make a good point of saying, yeah, there's a lot of games, but we've got this good return policy. You know, it's fine. You get your money back if you want it, etc.
Sure.
And with this popular new releases thing being the first thing that you see when you go to Steam, the problem is actually starting to work itself out in a way that makes Steam useful to me as opposed to PlayStation Network or Xbox One. Now, as far as the question goes, Greenlight, there have been good Greenlight games out there. Like I'm gonna look at. Can you think of games that you really enjoyed coming out of Greenlight? I'm looking. This is a curator who is doing Greenlight stuff, and these are not new. But here's just some of the ones that I played. Sarah and I played YouTuber's Life, which if you've never played YouTuber's Life,
I haven't.
It's basically The Sims, except that your little sim character is a YouTuber, and so you have to like try to balance like not making your parents angry because you live at home and like creating content and trying to like make enough videos that publishers will send you games and like upgrading your computer and buying a new webcam and blah blah blah.
YouTuber's Life.
YouTuber's Life.
Great.
Yeah,
I'm adding that to my list. That sounds cute.
Cluster Truck was one that we played. Amanda and I played that, where basically it's a platformer where there's a bunch of semis that you're jumping between, and they're all barreling forward over cliffs and stuff, and you're just trying to jump between the back of different trucks. It's awesome.
Nice.
Super Hot is a great game that I totally and completely love. It's one of my favorites, and it had a kind of a demo beforehand, but it came through Greenlight. But yeah, I'm not going to say that there aren't good games to come out of Steam Greenlight. There have been plenty that I didn't even know were in Steam Greenlight until they came out, and then I played them, and I never bothered to look at where they came from because if you're an indie publisher, that stuff is going to come through there. But
right.
It's mostly just a question of being able to find. I meant to talk about this last time that we talked about this. There's a thing, people know this already, but I'm going to say it for maybe the two people out there who don't know it, called decision fatigue, where this is a scientific thing where
options.
When you're given too many options, your brain just starts to shut down and you're not able to.
I get that so much.
Yeah. And with Steam, it's kind of a thing because the PlayStation Network puts out 10 things a week, Xbox One puts out 7 things a week, and Steam puts out like 95 games a week. And so
many freaking things.
You look at that, like I've been at a bunch of people who have recommended this game Hollow Knight to me, that's supposed to be, kind of a fun Metroidvania / kind of Soulsian little thing with this little cute knight guy. And I'm like, okay, maybe, but if I had to crawl through every single thing that Steam puts out, and that's not even to mention the fact that Steam also puts out movies, like this week, Hacksaw Ridge and Manchester by the Sea, and like some of the Oscar stuff was out there too. That stuff was all on Steam, also DLC, also other things. So that's the problem that I have is finding a way around the decision fatigue of Steam to find the good stuff that you want to play, because there's plenty of good stuff that you want to play out there. In any case, I don't know that I'm going to just sit here and list off games, but I will say that it did give me a chance to say that as hard as I am on Steam a lot of times, it's only because I want the platform to succeed and because it is a useful platform and it's where PC games come out in greater numbers. So I just don't want to get to a place where I'm ignoring Steam because there's just this decision fatigue of too many things.
Right.
So
that looks really cute.
Oh, yeah, we're looking at the trailer for Hollow Knight right now.
I'm adding that to my list as well because it's adorable.
I feel like every time you come over here, Jennifer,
I walk away with like 5 new things to play. It makes me so happy.
I was like, okay, Jennifer, sit down. Let me tell you the 5 things this week that you should play. All right.
God, decision fatigue.
Yeah. Our last question this week comes in from BHammer100, who says, hello, Jeff and Jennifer.
Hello.
I just heard today the sad news that Bill Paxton passed away. That's true.
I know.
So to honor the only man to be killed by a Terminator, a Predator, and an Alien, I thought this would be a fun question to ask. Out of those 3, Terminator, Alien, and Predator, which is your favorite franchise and why? And if you had to be killed by one of those 3, which one would you want to be killed by? Thanks for answering my question, and stay classy, BHammer100. Terminator for certain, because it is a Terminator. It is made to terminate people. aliens will drag you away and put a thing that
I
bursts
don't
out of
want
your
that.
chest.
Nope.
And
no.
I want to make sure, even though it's never been completely, the Predator does skin people, and I don't want him to make a mistake and accidentally skin me while I'm not quite dead yet.
I do like the challenge of the chase, though. That could be fun.
Well, this is just who do you want to be killed by? What, Predator?
Yeah.
You think you could beat the Predator?
I don't know, but I'd like to try.
He's invisible. He's got the little.
Hey, what is life without a challenge? All right.
Not death. That's
well. There's that.
There's challenges. There's beating Metal Gear on hard, and then there is running from the Predator, which I would not be able to do.
Hey, Homegirl beat him in that one movie.
Which one?
Aliens versus Predator. Yeah, and then he tore off the tail of the alien, and then gave her the acid tattoo and the.
I walked out of that movie. It was so stupid.
Of course you did.
I don't ever do that. But I was like, nope. And you know what's funny is I actually think the second Alien versus Predator movie is better than that because it's just like aliens and predators
and spaceships. All right.
No. They come to like a small town, right?
That's the one with the pool.
I don't. Okay.
There's like a pool scene in that one, isn't there?
I don't know. All I remember is that they came to a small town and it was just like a bunch of people trying to run. It's kind of like the last scene of Rambo, except instead of a Vietnam veteran, you have aliens and predators fighting each other. And I was like, all right, I can get behind this.
All right, why
not? But okay, I'm going to definitely say Terminator to get killed by because they tend to just like, put a blade through your
Straight
face
to business.
Or turn your head around. I mean, you barely even know you're getting killed and then you're just dead whatever.
I'm gonna go Predator because the challenge.
Okay.
I wanna.
You think you can get out of it?
I think I might be able to take him. Okay. I don't know.
I mean, it also depends on what the rules are. Like, is this just me in my house? Or, like, do I have access to pulse rifles and flamethrowers or machine guns and Long Tall Sally on repeat?
I don't know about you. I carry those things around with me all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I've got them in my superhero onesie right now.
Yeah. Is that what all that clanking is?
That is.
Anyway, let's go back to the main question. Which is your favorite franchise, Terminator, Alien, or Predator? That's interesting because they all have had good movies and they all have had really shit
bad movies. Yeah.
Also, I'd like to say for the record, once again, I know a lot of people like to lick this movie's butthole. I think the movie Predators with Big Nose McNoseson is a bad movie. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. And it's dumb, and I don't want to watch Lawrence Fishburne on a planet full of predators. I think that every time they take Predator and they try to explain more of Predator, it gets stupider. Like, Predator works when it's just like, oh, it's an alien and it's hunting us. Because the minute that you start thinking about Predator, like, is this guy like an office worker on vacation? Like, does he go back home and then take all that netting off and put on like a suit and he goes to the office and he's just like,
oh God, now I want that to be a movie. Can that please be a movie, please?
I mean,
or some fan fiction. Somebody write me some fan fiction of that. I need it in my life.
It gets into the Klingon problem where it's like, that
reading Klingon, that's hard.
You know that somewhere on Kronos there have to be like a bunch of Klingon scientists because somebody had to come up with that cloaking design and like all the weapons and then two, there have to be like Klingons whose job it is to get up and build spaceships because somebody
unless they
has
just took over a society that did all that and then made them make the shit for them.
No, because we've seen far enough back in the franchise to know that Klingons have been around for a long time. But yeah, because they're all just like war and blood and honor. And I'm like, what about the guy that's got to build ships? Like the best guy that builds ships? Are you going to let him go die in glorious battle and then have bad ships? Or what about a scientist who's like, well, I've devoted my life to making a better cloaking mechanism for our spaceships. And they're like, die in battle. And he's like, I have a lot of research left. I also have children that I need to raise. So
send them to.
Yeah. Like I imagine that like right outside of the capital city, there's like a suburb with just a bunch of like Klingons. And they're all just like wearing shirts, just like a Klingon paper boy, like throwing papers, just like morning Gronk. And he's like, morning Kronos. And
morning douche. Oh wait, that's the other game.
Douche. Anyway, best franchise. Let's actually.
I'm gonna go Alien.
Alien?
Yeah,
okay.
Especially with, and this is probably controversial and you're probably going to argue with me and that's fine.
Burp.
Especially with the new Prometheus stuff. And they're making another new one. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that yet.
Saw the trailer for it.
Yep. I like Michael Fassbender and anybody who doesn't can suck it.
So, Alien probably has Alien franchise if you
Sigourney Weaver.
If you don't count AVP, if you take those out, you say that's like a Freddy versus Jason thing. We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Alien probably has the best track record.
I agree.
Because Aliens, Alien 3 are all
they were the ones that
solid.
consistently scared me the most.
Yeah.
I mean, I want, yeah, Alien by far. Terminator was good for suspense. There were a couple scenes where my heart was in my throat, but not as like much as the Alien movies. Maybe it's the actual darkness of the way that the cinematography is done. Maybe it's just like dark and shadowy shit does it for my horror reflex.
Yeah.
But I just love those freaking movies.
Alien also has the advantage of having a lot of body horror to it because you literally get fucked in the face by the aliens, and then
I have a thing about like needles and shit living and breaking out of my body. That terrifies the fuck out of me. Like the movie Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Based on a comic.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That movie gave me such nightmares. I remember vividly, I could not sleep that night. Woke up, slept with all the lights on, could not for a long time afterwards. Body horror? No. Just no.
Now, on the other hand, Terminator 1 and 2, like without the rest of it, where it's gotten all
don't count
fucking
to me.
Okay, but you know what? Here's the thing. I actually don't hate Terminator 3 with the Lady Terminator.
They're just different.
It's because it's okay. It's not. The problem is that Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are so good that 3 is simply like, if 3 was by itself, was somehow a standalone movie, we would probably remember it as like, okay, you know, it was
all
fine.
right. It's all right.
But people are like, oh, it's shit, because there's a Terminator 2, which was unlike. I think that I listen to the Crack podcast, and they have this thing that they said one time that really resonated with me, that like the most amazing thing about Terminator 2 is that Terminator 2 is a fantastic movie, and it has Edward Furlong in it, because he's an insufferable shit in that movie, and it's still an awesome movie in spite of, no, what are you doing? You can't tell me, I'm Edward Furlong. And they're like, oh, I'm going to teach you bad 90s slang. Oh,
nobody cares. Shut up, little boy.
I'm going to cry because my metal dad is going in. But those movies are great time travel movies as well. Like, I kind of like the Predestiny and the Paradox of the first one, where, you know, it's like Kyle Reese had to go back for there to be a John Connor.
Kyle Reese, love him.
Yeah. And then in the second one, the whole kind of like breaking the cycle of Judgment Day in the future, and the kind of like, you could have ended that franchise there with the kind of the shot of the road and them just like, well, I don't know what's next. Also, it is worth talking about that not so much Predator, but both the Terminator and the Alien franchise gave us fucking like kick-ass lady action stars.
True.
In ways that I don't feel like we really had before, because, and especially, I mean, I don't want to throw any shade at Sigourney Weaver, because fucking I love Sigourney Weaver, but
so hot.
You look at Linda Hamilton in Terminator 1, and she's just like this waitress that Kyle Reese is dragging all over the place. And then they go that first time when they go to the mental asylum, and she's just
goddamn.
Like, and it's like Linda Hamilton put some work in for that shit. And
I'm sorry, my brain just shorted out. I need a moment, because Linda Hamilton in that movie, dear God in heaven.
Well, and the other thing is that she was great because you like everything that she did. Oh, you know what? I just realized the Aliens and Terminator 2 are both James Cameron, right?
Are they?
I'm pretty sure they're both James Cameron.
I was fans of those before I knew directors and creators and all that.
Oh, okay.
I just knew the movies.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell you who did the cinematography. I'm gonna fact check that.
But like all the things that Linda Hamilton does in Terminator 2, like sometimes, and I don't know, this is a weird thing that starts edging up against some problematic territories that I don't always like to talk about. That is, the sometimes there will be a movie where it's like you have a lady character. True Lies, Terminator 2, Aliens.
He did Titanic.
Terminator 2.
Oh, and The Abyss. I loved that movie.
Where, like, I had a little bit of a problem with this. Sometimes, and I don't know how you feel about this, I actually feel like we've had this conversation before. Sometimes you get a movie where you got this lady, and she's in good shape, like Linda Hamilton type of person. Like, imagine Linda Hamilton is in a movie the way that she is in Terminator 2, and then imagine that you put Dolph Lundgren on the other side, and that there's a scene where she gets to beat the shit out of Dolph Lundgren, and you go, this is not physically possible not because women are inferior to men, because Dolph Lundgren is a fucking monster man, right? And it takes like another monster man or like a gun. That's why we put guns in movies. But
it's just proportions. It's a thing.
Everything that Linda Hamilton did in that movie, I felt like she's like running and shooting, and that they portray her as like she has spent time learning how to do these things. Like there's this attitude that she has about just fucking like she's got to keep her son safe, and that's her primary motivation, and that like everything she's doing is just like fucking get behind me and I'm gonna do this. It's great. But then Sigourney Weaver, the story of Aliens, of her, that's such an incredibly well-crafted story of her waking up, losing everything, being down. I mean, when Paul Reiser comes to talk to her and she's fucking smoking cigarettes and just like kind of shitting on the world, and then watching over the course of Aliens her bond with Newt. And I always think that
Newt.
I don't think that people give it enough credit. I don't even know how many people remember it, that after she rescues Newt from the Queen at the very end, when Newt hugs her, she says mommy. She like hugs Ripley and says mommy to her, and it's like this is kind of completed that she has a new daughter, because at the very beginning her daughter's dead, and et cetera, et cetera. So but then again, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say the things I like about all these movies. The original Predator is almost a parody because of the machismo.
So much machismo. Get to the chopper.
No, there's that moment at the beginning where fucking Carl Weathers and Schwarzenegger, they fucking bro slap, and then they just fucking like clench it, and then there's Jesse the Body Ventura about this shit'll make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Like,
oh God, I forgot.
He does drop a hard F-bomb in there before he says that, but it almost, like, in the context of this movie, there's a point where the one guy, where they're attacking the rebels, and Jesse the Body Ventura has this chain gun, and the guy is like, "You're shot." He's like, "I ain't got time to bleed," and then.
Such a bro movie.
He's the
bromance of the ages.
The governor of just the Body Ventura is the governor of North Dakota. Or
don't ask me.
Like,
don't even. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
That's the Predator series is the one that I have the least experience with the older movies.
Yeah.
I've probably seen AVP more than I would care to admit at this point.
I'm going to say right now, for you and for everybody else, the original Predator is a masterpiece. And it's actually a really clever movie, because Schwarzenegger's team is called in by the CIA because they were doing a black op that went wrong, and these guys are a search and rescue team that are trying to get them back, and then it turns out that it wasn't rebels who was doing this. It's a fucking invisible alien, and then by the time they figure that out, it's already hunting them, and they're trying to get around it, yada yada. But it's great. Predator 2 is weird because it's like it's LA, like in the early 2000s, and this was made in the 90s, when we were pretty sure that by the year 2000 street gangs would be running every city, like Demolition Man at the beginning, where it's like LA has just been taken over by gangs, the Warrior style. And so in Predator 2, it's like the hottest summer ever, and open gang warfare on the streets, and Danny Glover's a cop, and then this Predator shows up to start killing people, and he figures it out. And it's real weird because I don't normally think of Danny Glover as like an action, like he's in Lethal Weapon, right? But he's never been a kind of like a running, flipping, jumping kind of guy.
No.
But then like halfway through that movie, Gary Busey shows up, and he's like a government guy who knows about the Predator, and they've put together this team to trap the Predator. And
I'm rolling my eyes now.
It's so strange. I don't know. When I think about it, at the end of the day, Alien probably has more better movies, but that's also coming from a person who really likes Alien Resurrection, in spite of the doofy craziness and the little baby white alien hybrid guy, and Winona Ryder's there, and I'm just like, okay, yeah.
Alien wins for me.
And the fact that I really don't like Prometheus, but
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see what they do with the next one. Interested to see where it goes.
There were just too many "why are you doing this" moments for me in that movie.
I could see that.
And there's a certain threshold that I don't have a number for in my brain, where once you hit a certain number of it started when they took their helmets off, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
I think me and the whole crew, people I was watching it with, were all like, whoa,
yeah.
whoa.
Aren't you supposed to be like scientists?
Science-y.
Anyway. Oh, also, before we get finish here, don't watch Passengers. That movie's not very good.
Don't even get me started on that movie.
It doesn't.
I had a really long Facebook textual war with a couple friends of mine from my D&D group, because one of the guys saw the movie and was attempting to argue with me about the way that movie was being represented as a romance in the trailers, which it was.
Let's not spoil anything, but yeah.
No, the trailer for the movie, it was obviously marketing it as a space romancy movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, no, it's totally not. And that's not the way the movie goes and whatever. And I'm like, it's abusive. This is horrible. This is trash.
The problem comes in the very end. And it's a thing that I hate in lots of movies where a character is suddenly changes their mind about something very important for what seems like no reason. That there is no
agency.
If there was a reason for that character to change their mind, which you could have done, even though that movie there was some interesting stuff going on into it up until a certain point, and then it was like, what movie are you making here?
Yep.
And then there's some
What's your message? What are you trying to tell us?
That the characters are doing where I'm like, no, I don't entirely understand this.
No.
In fact, there was actually even an opening at the end of that movie to end it in a much better way that would have been better. Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Feelings.
yeah, don't watch Passengers. Just wait till it's on Netflix. Don't pay money for it or anything.
Don't encourage them to make more trash movies like that, please.
But see, the director of that was like the director of something that I really liked.
That doesn't stop him from making bad decisions.
I know. Anyway, go watch Predator, go watch Aliens, go watch Terminator 2.
Yes.
Skip Terminator 1.
No, don't do that.
No, I mean,
I loved Reese in that movie. He was total heartthrob of my childhood.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to be done. We've taken a lot of time in questions where we've now gone over our projected time. But
what
Jennifer, I think that we're like 15 minutes or 20 minutes over.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
All right.
What I said was I'm going to try to stick to an hour, but we are definitely going to not be 2.5 hours like we used to.
Yeah, this is way better.
Jennifer, tell people where they can find you on the internet.
I'm Mayhem's Muse. You can find me at twitch.tv/mayhems_muse. There are links to all my other social media there. I'm on pretty much every platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, Steam, PlayStation Network, all the shit.
Yep.
Find me. Come hang out. We do streams, retro games, acting stuff, modeling stuff, all the fandoms. Yeah.
Okay. Mail@ragesuck.com is the email address if you would like to send an email into us for the next show. This comes out every Sunday, and like and subscribe. We've got a Patreon. You guys know this stuff. You're listening to this. Ever since I made the podcast shorter, the numbers on YouTube have dropped significantly. So, and I don't know whether that's people that have actively stopped watching or whether it's that dumb YouTube algorithm where because the format is shorter, it's not serving it to as many people because YouTube wants people to watch for long periods of time.
That's an interesting question.
I can't tell which one it is because everybody in the comment section, most of the people in the comment section are like, fine. Yeah. Like some people have even been, I prefer the longer one, but if this is easier.
It's been fewer, though, than the people that have been favorable.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's it. We're done. Join us back here tomorrow. We're going to have a brand new video. I think it's going to be Zelda, but I can't say for sure. But join us then, and good night.